You've heard everyone on BiggerPockets say it 1,000 times. House hacking is the best way to get involved in real estate if you're looking for a low risk and high reward way to invest. But the biggest hurdle when investing in real estate and house hacking has to be finding good tenants. That's right, you're going to have roommates and you're going to have to manage them. My name is Danielle, and I am the Senior Account Manager here at BiggerPockets, and I'm a serial house hacker. So, how can you make sure you end up with superstars and not squatters? Stay tuned to find out. So I've been investing in real estate for about 1.5 years, and I've been living for free since September of 2022. I currently own 2 properties here in the Denver metro, one in Arvada and one in North Glen. Both houses are worth over $500,000, anywhere from that $500,000 range to $575,000. Out of both of those houses, I have 10 rooms to fill. So 10 different leases, 10 different tenants, and both houses are anywhere from 5 to 6 bedrooms. My first deal back in September of 2022 is in North Glen, Colorado. It's a 5-bedroom, 2-bath house, and the purchase price was $494,000. I got a $5,000 seller credit, so the actual price for me was $489,000, but we tacked that on to reduce that interest rate, which I bought down to 5.1%. The down payment was 3% or $15,000 on top of closing costs, which were roughly $9,300. So all in, I was at about $24,000 to close on the property. The mortgage is around $3,100, and the utilities usually around $400. I also got solar to help reduce those expenses, but that's a story for a different day. Overall, I actually cash flow on this property anywhere from $500 to $1,000, depending on seasonality and how much I can get for rent, as well as the changes in utilities. My second property is in Arvada, Colorado, and it's super similar to my first property. It is a 6-bedroom, 2-bath house, and I rent out most of the rooms. I do keep one open just to have a little bit of a luxury house hack. Interest rate on that one was 6.6%, and the down payment was 5% on this property. Since it was my second property, I was no longer able to put down that 3%. Closing costs were roughly $8,000 on top of that $28,000 down payment. So all in, I was about $35,000 to purchase the property. Utilities are also around $400 a month on this property, and current earnings are negative $500 roughly. But the way I think about this is between both properties, I'm still having the ability to cash flow $500, and that's on top of living for free. So you might be asking yourself, what should I be looking for in a good tenant? There's a couple things that I've found that I use to qualify good tenants. That's a 600 credit score or higher. I can be lenient. Sometimes there's students who like to do rent by the room. I'm super lenient if they have a guarantor or they have an explanation, but overall, I like to stick with that 600 credit score. I like to look for no past evictions and no criminal history, and I like to ask people up front because I don't want any surprises when it comes to looking at the application and the background check. I also look for only one person per room. You would be surprised how many couples want to live in a house hack. I unfortunately don't allow couples because squeezing 7 people compared to 6 in one house is a little bit much for me. I also look for cleanliness and responsibility, and honestly, you can find that out just by asking questions. Get on a phone call with the tenant before actually having them come view your property. Another thing I look for is positive feedback from references. This is super important and underestimated. I call every single reference just to make sure people have positive things to say, whether it's past employers, past coworkers, or past roommates. I like to hear that this tenant is someone that I feel comfortable living with based on those references. The last thing I look for in a good tenant is 6 to 12-month leases. I have done 3. It's possible, but I like to look for that 6 to 12-month range in a house hack because the turnover, if you have 2 properties or more, is going to be high. You could potentially be looking for a tenant every other month, which we do not want. All right, so we've talked about what to look for in good tenants, but how about where do I find tenants? It totally depends. For me, I've had a ton of success with Facebook Marketplace, and when I say a ton, I mean I've found about 90% of my tenants from Facebook Marketplace. I've also utilized Roomies, which is another platform for finding tenants. It works, but I hope you're good at sales because I feel like there's a lot more prospecting to Roomies where you have to actually reach out to the tenants and basically kind of sell yourself and your property. So that one's worked for me a little bit, but not as good as Facebook Marketplace. Also, Zillow now allows rent by the room rentals. It did not when I started my house hacking journey. So I personally have not used Zillow and or Hotpads, but it is an option if you were looking for some more channels for you to post your listing. Another underestimated way to find a good tenant is social media. I post to Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook. I put it on my stories, and I actually have gotten a couple leads from that as well, from friends of friends who just happen to know people who need a room. The last but not least, and absolutely the most underestimated way to find a tenant is through word of mouth. When I bought my first property back in September of 2022, I told every single person that I knew that I was buying a house and that I was looking for people to rent the rooms. And lo and behold, I found 2 tenants from my gym. And not from knowing them. I literally told a friend at the gym, and he happened to know 2 girls who were moving from Fort Collins and just happened to need a room for rent. So don't underestimate word of mouth. In addition to finding the tenants, what are some more green flags that I look for in tenants? I look for complete profiles if you're looking on Facebook Marketplace. The reason I say this is the last thing I want is someone to reach out who has no profile picture, who has 1 friend, and who has never posted on Facebook. I'm trying to be safe. I live in the property as well. I want to make sure that these are tenants that I can kind of trust. So I definitely look for a full profile. Another one is I look for on Facebook Marketplace when someone is reaching out to me, something more than them commenting or messaging me and saying, is this listing available? The listing is available. The listing is active. You responded to my listing. So yes, it is available. So I definitely like someone saying a little bit more than that, giving me a little bit more of a personal touch, and that makes me more likely to respond. Another tenant green flag is responsiveness and good communication. And again, this is still talking about Facebook Marketplace for the most part, but I definitely look for someone who responds in a timely manner and who's a good communicator. Those are telling signs that a tenant is going to be a good fit if they can communicate right off the bat. Last but not least is that they're willing to hop on a call before viewing a property. I've gotten way too many messages of people saying, hi, when can I come see the property? Again, this goes back to safety. I like to be safe. I like to feel like I am not just reaching out to random people on the internet. I definitely want to have a call with someone first just to make sure they are who they say they are. So that's a green flag to me. Resolving conflict, because conflict will happen. There's a few ways that I like to resolve conflict, and number 1 is just setting expectations up front. Tell people what are some potential issues that you've had in the past, or what are your expectations with dishes? How long should they stay in the sink? What are expectations with laundry? When should someone move their laundry from the dryer to the washer so that it's not sitting there for a week straight? Those are just some examples, but set expectations right up front, and I think you'll be able to avoid a lot of issues. I like to reach out to tenants directly via phone, not text. Text is for small maintenance issues or small problems that arise with the house. If it's an actual issue, definitely hop on a phone call with them, or even in person if you can. Last but not least, I would say to set up a house meeting with all the tenants. Once you get everyone there, you can assume that you have 5 to 6 different personalities living under one roof. So I highly recommend having a house meeting and just talking about expectations and talking about what you want and need out of a living situation so that we don't have one person who randomly parties every night and shows up with 5 friends at 5 a.m. on a Tuesday, right? Maybe setting that expectation up front with your tenants about who works and when could be a smart move. So as far as an eviction, when does it become an eviction? I can only give you hearsay, and I can give you potential examples here. I have, thank goodness, not dealt with an eviction, though I have dealt with 3 cancellations. That's a story for another day. As far as evictions, I would say any form of violence, any form of not paying rent, harassing other tenants, or even violating the lease in some way or another would basically be valid for me to consider evicting someone. As far as vacancy, everyone has heard, I'm sure at one point or another, if you did a Google search or watched another video, that 10% is the standard vacancy rate. I personally don't go by an exact percentage of my income to be able to put that away for savings and vacancy. I just focus on saving, period. I put every single dollar away that I possibly can out of every single paycheck, and every time I get any sort of additional rental income or cash flow, I put it away. So I'm just a huge saver. I don't focus on the number. I just focus on literally saving everything I can. So now you guys know my tips on managing and finding tenants when you're first starting out. If you're looking to manage your own tenants and your own property, check out BiggerPockets' new book, The Self-Managing Landlord, at biggerpockets.com/managing book. Also, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Catch you soon.